Okay, boys and girls, so we're moving on to lesson 7.2, and it's applying ratio and rate reasoning. So it's lesson 7.2, and our question is, how can you solve problems with proportions? Now, you've probably never heard the word proportion before. I'm going to provide you the definition, and then I'm going to give you an example of a proportion. So what is a proportion? A proportion is two ratios, and I have the definition here, and you're going to copy this down, two ratios that are equal or equivalent. I'm going to give you some examples of what a proportion is. So our first proportion would be 1/4. This is a ratio, and we can make up a scenario for this ratio. For example, 1 cup of flour to 4 cups of sugar. And let's pretend we were baking or something like that. We can also do something like 1 boy to 4 girls. One of anything to 4 of something. So this is a ratio. Now, to find an equivalent ratio or to find a proportion, we would see it like this. And we would say if we had 12 cups of sugar, how many cups of flour would we need? And we will be moving on, and we'll be using a variable. So instead of having a box there, you'd probably see an X or a Y or some variable. And so the way we solve this, there's one simple way, and then there's a more complex way that we can use, which we would use with bigger numbers and numbers that are easier to multiply. So then how do we go from from 4 to 12? So 4 times some number equals 12. And so we all know that it's times 3. 4 times 3 equals 12. So whatever we do on the bottom, we do on top. And so 1 times 3 is 3. So if we had 4 cups of sugar, we would need 3 cups of flour. Now, how do we check if it is a proportion? Here's how we check to see if it is a proportion. So our answer would be 1 to 4 is equal to 3 to 12. And how do we check to see if it is a proportion? So we do something we call cross multiply. And so we multiply this way. And so we're going to multiply the 4 and the 3. And that equals 12. And then we're going to multiply the other way, 1 times 12. And as you can already see, equals 12. And so since these two numbers are the same, it is a proportion. All right, so now let's go on to our problem. Model 1. It says, Emmanuel and Enrique are partners in a business. So they're partners. They work together. They sell the same thing. So they are partners. And so here is our scenario. They have a little business going on. This is our scenario. They're going to be selling stuff. So here's our scenario. Emmanuel makes $2 in profits for every, and here's our key word, for every, and this tells us it's a ratio, for every $5 that Enrique makes. So Enrique is going to make $5, and Emmanuel is going to make $2. If together they make a profit of $28 on the first item they sell, how much profit does Enrique make? So here's our example. Our ratio is $2 to $5, and this is for Emmanuel, and this is for Enrique. So in total, they get $7 in total. So for example, if they make $7, Enrique gets 5, Emmanuel gets 2. If they sell $7, and I would do a table, I would have total, I'd have Emmanuel, I'd have Enrique, and you guys are copying this down. So Emmanuel will get 2, Enrique will get 5. When I add 5 plus 2, it equals 7. If they sold $14 worth of stuff, Emmanuel would get 4, and Enrique would get 10. And so when I add those two together, they equal 14. If they were to sell $21, Emmanuel would get 6, Enrique would get 15. And so we have a table going on. Now, here's how I would solve this problem. $2 for every 5. So here's my ratio, 2 over 5. I'm going to put Emmanuel, and I'm going to put Enrique. If together they make a $28 profit on the first item they sell, how much does Enrique make? And so we're just trying to find out how much Enrique makes. Now we could do a table. We can do the table like this, which is probably the easiest method. Or we could say that these two combined equal $7. So if we have $7, I'm going to put total here, $7. We are looking for Enrique. So how much does Enrique get? He would get $5 is equal to, and since it's giving us the total amount, total's here, so total has to go down on the bottom, so 28. And up on top, we have Enrique. We need to find out how much Enrique would make. And now we would just go and we would solve this problem like we're normally used to solving. How do we go from 7 to get to 28? We multiply it by 4. And since we're doing 4 on the bottom, we multiply it by 4 on top. And 5 times 4 equals 20. So Enrique would make $20 if they sold $28 worth of stuff. Now let's look at problem 2, or model 2. It says the members of the PTA are ordering pizza for a meeting. So here's our scenario, and whenever we have a word problem, I want you to identify the scenario. Here's the story. Scenario, okay? They plan to order 2 cheese pizzas. So they're going to order 2 cheese pizzas. Our key word for every, this tells me it's a ratio. So 2 cheese pizzas for every 3 pepperoni pizzas. So they're going to order 2 cheese pizzas for every 3 pepperoni pizzas. How many cheese pizzas, so we want cheese goes with cheese, will they order if they order a total is a key word, of 25 pizzas? So now we know, I'm going to set up this proportion, or this ratio here. This is a ratio. We don't know this is unknown. We don't know how many cheese pizzas they're going to order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a ratio over here. I'm going to put up here a box which says cheese, okay, because we don't know. And I'm going to put 25 down here, and this is total pizzas. Okay, because this is what we have here. Now, since I'm doing a ratio, I would have an equal sign. And on the other side, I'd have my ratio that I'm given. And so in this problem, I'm given the ratio of 2 cheese over, 3 pepperoni. So I'm given the ratio of 2 cheese to 3 pepperoni. Well, what I'm going to put up here is my 2 cheese, because the cheese is up here on top. So cheese also has to be down here on the bottom. So I'm going to have 2 cheese. And we don't know how many yet we're going to need. But down on the bottom, it says total. And so I need total down here. Where do I find my total? Well, if I'm going to have 2 cheese and 3 pepperoni, my total would be 5. So I'm going to put 5 down here, which is my total. And then I would go through and I would do my steps. 5 times some number equals 25. So 5 times 5 equals 25. And 2, whatever we do on the bottom, we do on top. So 2 times 5 is 10. So if we ordered 25 pizzas, 10 of them would be cheese. Okay, I could also do it in a table, and I would have, and I did this with the paint problem the other day. I would have total, I would have cheese, I would have pepperoni, 2, 3, and 5, and I would keep going. 4, 6, and 10. So if we notice, everything is multiplied by 2 in this row. Everything is multiplied by 2. 2 times 2, 3 times 2, 5 times 2. And then I would keep on going. 6, 9, 15. And if you notice, everything in this row is multiplied by 3. 2 times 3, 3 times 3, 5 times 3. I would then keep on going. 8, 12, and 20. So if we notice, everything here is multiplied by 4. 2 times 4, 3 times 4, and 5 times 4. And I would just keep going through this process until I get to 25 pizzas. And so the next one would be 25. This one would be 15. And this would be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this is, this would be 10. Times 5, times 5, and times 5. And so we got our answer here. Our next example is modeling. So it says Francisco can run 3 miles in 40 minutes. So Francisco can run 3 miles in 40 minutes. This is our ratio. So we know 3 miles over 40 minutes is equal to, at this rate, how far can he run in 60 minutes? So we want to know how many miles, how far, how many miles, so that's going to be the blank, in 60 minutes. Okay, because minutes are here and minutes are down here. Everybody see the minutes and the minutes. Now this is a very tricky problem, because it's not easy just to go, okay, 40 times what number equals 60? 40 times 2 is 80, so it's not times 2. So this is a very tricky problem. So we use a strategy called cross multiplication. And so I'm going to multiply the 3 and the 60. So I'm going to multiply this way. Okay, I'm going to multiply this way, and I get 3 times 60, so then I bring it down, is equal to, and I'm going to multiply the other way, 40 times blank. Okay, so now I'm going to bring that down here, 40 times blank. And so then I'm going to do this. 3 times 60, so 60 times 3 is 180. So now I have 180 is equal to 40 times a blank number, and we don't know what that is yet. So in order for me to figure this out, I'm going to divide by 40. So I'm going to take this number and I'm going to divide it into that number. So it's 180 divided by 40. And I'm going a little fast, but 40 goes into 18 0 times. 40 goes into 180 4 times. So that 40 times 40 is 60, or 160. Decimal point, bring down the 0. 40 goes into 200 5 times. So it's actually 4.5 is what I would have. I would have 4.5. And so basically what I'm doing here is I'm multiplying 40 times 60 4.5 times. And guys, since you have a calculator, I'm okay with you using a calculator for this problem. So since I'm multiplying 3 times 60, I'd pull out my calendar. And so I would go 3 times 60 equals 180. And then since I'm dividing it by 40, I would 180 divided by 40 equals 4.5. And so now we know that I would erase everything. 40 times 4.5 should equal 180. So then on top, I would have 3 times 4.5 equals 13.5.